Okay, let me set up the YouTube real quick.
Okay.
President says.
Good evening. Hello, everybody that is joining us today. I'd like to welcome you officially to our technology session today. My name is Chasem Huruma. I'm the president for WWLC president for Namibia and also technology president. Let me just see who's in our midst today. Okay. Currently we have Dr. Ayla, the founder of WWLC. Dr. Ayla, we honor you for this vision that you have seen to bring together all the women around the world and to empower them. We thank you. And I also want to introduce our President Paul and President Letseho. I would like to also introduce Jamila Abdul. Welcome everybody to our conference today. Without further ado, while we're still waiting for other people to join us for this conference today, I want to welcome our host. Our host today is Mr. Anthony Norman. He's the CEO and founder of Dragon Global Finance. It's a fintech company that he is the CEO of. Mr. Anthony, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Dr. Ayla, and everybody for the invitation to be here. I received it on fairly short notice, so I hope I can live up to your expectations today. I'm very excited about this project. We have been looking into this for several months now, and we have now started moving very rapidly in the direction of actually starting to deliver on the platforms. But I think if you don't mind, maybe a good start is if I tell you a little bit more about Dragon and how it is intended to support the organization and to be able to deliver on parts of Dr. Ayla's vision for association.
Okay, thank you so much. Please do tell us more about Dragon. Would like
Absolutely.
to hear more.
Yes, so thank you. So Dragon Global is a fintech, just as you said. We are living in the new neo-banking space that we see everybody moving into. My opinion is that traditional banks as we know them, are not going to look the same a few years from now. And it's a very interesting time, really, because we are often talking about how internet has empowered people and has changed the world, which it has hugely. But actually blockchain technology and cryptocurrency now is a bigger change, because we're actually changing and affecting the lowest denomination in society right now, which is actually money. Money drives most mechanisms one way or another, whether we like it or not. And actually, that is where the key in actually unleashing and empowering people is as well, because financial oppression or financial limitations or financial inequalities are as powerful as any other means, which means that if you want to empower anyone, one very important key factor is obviously financial infrastructure. And this is where we're going. Dragon Global is built on my experience from the banking world and corporate finance. I am personally not a banker from the beginning. I didn't even finish school, to be honest with you. My background is actually from working with the UN in the peacekeeping military field and as a software developer. I accidentally came into corporate finance in early 2000. And after that, I worked with a lot of public companies. And this is what actually boiled down to the core of Dragon. So what we do in Dragon is we operate a neobank, which is actually platform and region agnostic, which means that we can take on any kind of asset. We work in any kind of currency and in most parts of the world as well, regulatory wise. But we actually do this not so much for the banking operation, because that is the bread and butter of the operation, but actually to support our corporate finance activity. So our other brand that we work with is something called World Equity Expo, which is a tokenized stock exchange, to keep it very simple. We actually call it asset exchange.
Okay.
The reason we feel that is strategic is that the key in order to create jobs, to create opportunities, to build business is obviously funding. Whether it's $1,000 or $10 million, it's always funding. And funding builds companies. Companies employs people. Employed people drive taxes in some parts of the world, and so on, and builds prosperity. So the ability of raising money is absolutely key in order to empower. Now, having been in corporate finance, I've been doing listings mostly in Europe, but other parts of the world too. It is actually too hard for a company to get started and get listed. And the hurdles, the regulatory hurdles and the practical hurdles are not there to protect people. Well, they are actually there to protect people from the beginning, but they don't right now. The crooks get in anyhow. That is the problem, because they just pay their way. So the regulatory structure, and this is actually applies for the whole world, and especially now with blockchain and cryptocurrencies rolling out, regulators are trying to react, they're trying to adapt, but they're only being reactive, they're not being proactive, which means they're not helping. So what we want to provide is the ability for any small business, wherever you are, whatever the size, to in 48 hours, form a business, get your banking up, list your company, have public equity, and actually trade your stock, even if you're a $1,000 company. And that, to us, is a way of empowering entrepreneurship everywhere in the world.
If we're able to do that very easily, that would mean the whole entrepreneurial sector will become more liquid, and it will cause it for us to be able to access money easily.
Correct. And that is really the key driving everything. So that's why I believe so strongly about this and feel so strongly about doing this, because I've been there myself. I've formed small businesses that have grown into large businesses, and some have failed catastrophically, but you learn. And this is what you need to do. You need to provide the tools. It is just like, you have kids asking what they want to do when they grow up. I say, well, nobody can actually tell you that. The only thing I can advise you to do is try a lot of things, and you'll know what you don't want to do. And it's sort of the same with building a business. You just have to go out there. Many people from the industry, as I told you, I'm not from the industry. So you will have these old pinstripe suit bankers say, oh, you can't do that. Oh, why? And then it turns out you can, because you just can. And it's again, this is about empowerment. Just go out and do it. And we can provide the arena, or want to provide the arena, and part of that infrastructure that is needed.
That is wonderful. And I've seen from the environment that I am in, I'm in Namibia, Africa. So we've tried to make our money mobile in our country so far. And the bank is very hesitant when it comes to that, because they feel like they won't be making any profits if we make money, if we start going that way of fintech or mobile tokens.
Correct.
So how are you handling that where you are at the moment?
Well, you know what, I think you're spot on. That is a huge problem. And I'm familiar with some of the banking environment in Namibia and bordering countries too, because we did a project a couple of years ago. And it is a big problem because the banks are short-sighted. Instead of actually grabbing the opportunity and providing people with the mobile banking, because this is actually key to creating prosperity and business in the country. Instead, they actually try to close it in. You just can't do it. It's just like trying to ask 1,000 people or 3 people to keep a secret. It doesn't work. And it's the same in this case, that just like social media is driving political change and revolutions in countries, cryptocurrency is driving a financial revolution in some sorts. That doesn't come without challenges, obviously. You have a lot of bad things happening in crypto as well. But to be fair and honest, I mean, you have horribly bad things happening in traditional banking as well. So this is just a new approach. But I understand them being hesitant, because obviously change is scary to people. People are always, you know how it is. People, if you have 2 headlines on a newspaper, the bad news they will read first. They won't see the good news, because people are inclined, that is in human nature, because you gravitate towards the negativity, which is obviously not a great feature, but that's how it is. And it's the same with these bankers. People fear change, especially change they can't control.
I can see. Have there been any measures that you probably have put in, or you just feel like it's something that they will have to adapt to essentially? As soon as you start with it, they will come on board.
Well, it is almost like that. I think that there's very little point in actually having a conversation with them. Well, again, you can't really say them as a large mass, but I think this will come by itself, because like in any growing new industry or phenomenon, you suddenly after a while you see a consolidation, and things become real or more solid, and regulators will follow. You see how regulators are adapting to cryptocurrency, which means it's actually forcing the traditional banking world into this again. And I think, to use, this is not a perfect analogy, but I think the way we fintechs and sort of more creative businesses have to approach this, and this goes for any kind of empowerment, is that, like chasing an ex that doesn't want you. No matter how much you chase, that's not going to work. It's going to be counterproductive. But if you actually show that ex that, look, I went out and did this and I succeeded, they come running after you. And that's the same, that is the thing. Anything else is actually degrading yourself. And I think this is about actually appreciating our value, truly. and building that, and then they will have to come running after us, and either they run after you or they don't, but then they will suffocate eventually, and suffocate or have to adapt in a very, very painful way. So so I think that traditional banking will follow. We need traditional banking. I'm actually not against traditional banking, just to be clear. I just think that it needs to adapt and look at infrastructure. Because again, the problem they have is they have balance sheets and infrastructure that is inherited since sometimes hundreds of years. And in most cases, at least 20, 30, 40 years back. The technology they use, the servers are based on 70s technology in many cases. And it's horribly painful to adapt. So it's not that we are so much better, actually, that allows us to run fast. It's just that we don't have to carry that baggage.
Indeed. So you've spoken about infrastructure. What sort of infrastructure do you need in order for fintech to take up?
Well, again, I mean, we live in very interesting times. I mean, if you only go 20 years back, you couldn't build a business like you can do today. I'll give you an example. I restarted my corporate finance business after a little nosedive in the crash 2008. And I was actually fascinated by the fact that this is in 2011. And I had closed down the business, just restarted, and I was actually given the opportunity to take over a fund that had crashed or that I was restructuring. And I literally started that business in a coffee shop on a Mexican island with an internet connection and $20 and a laptop. That's what I did. And in 18 months, we had a 20 million euro turnover with a huge profit margin. And the thing is, I'm not saying that to brag, but thank you. But I'm saying that it illustrates how this is fantastic. I mean, you couldn't have done this 20 years ago. Now, anyone, anywhere in the world, more or less, I mean, obviously everybody needs the tools, but the tools have changed. Doing that, actually starting a corporate finance business, or actually that turned into a micro bank later and was sold. You couldn't have done that in the 90s even. And that is fascinating. Actually, again, going back to talking about empowerment and what people want to do with their careers and lives, well, there you have it. I mean, you can be anything you want. In a good and bad sense, internet provides that tool to you. So it's really, really fascinating. So you need very little infrastructure. Dragon is an organization that has more than 4 million members in its reach. We service about 20,000 clients. We're not big, but we do have a fairly high reach. We have clients from more than 50 countries, and we're only 14 people.
That's big.
So, you know, you don't need much infrastructure today. Infrastructure is cheap if you don't have to carry all stuff. And that is the opportunity for many countries. And I think especially, for instance, for Namibia, as an example, is that while there might be a little bit of a challenge to get the mobile payments and all this infrastructure going, at the same time, there's an opportunity to just leapfrog straight over one generation of old technology and infrastructure, if you can make that transition. This is the reason I can do a comparison with Scandinavia, where I'm at, versus the Baltic states and former Russian members of Russia, where they used to have very bad technology and I mean, a poor economy in the 90s, coming out of the Soviet Union. And in Sweden, everybody was nice, fat, and happy and taking it easy, thinking that we were great in terms of technology and finance. But what happened was we were lazy. And here you have these countries that didn't have old infrastructure, didn't have old technology. They just bought new stuff, new computers, new stuff. And they had great developers, and boom, they just ran right across us. And you can see now they are fantastic, doing fantastically well. And I mean, their economy is fine. They have a much stronger economy than Sweden. You have a better, in general, a better environment for entrepreneurs. while Sweden is still stuck in old stuff. And quite frankly, in that regard, still, yes, a stable environment, but a very boring one. So I think that is the same you can have everyone. That is, many economists like to call that the leapfrog phenomenon, where you just skip a couple of generations of development, which applies everywhere. And that is something that is much, much more relevant now than it has ever been, thanks to technology and everything, not only blockchain.
So much. So have you grown your business into any African countries at the moment?
Yes, we have. We have not set up any local operations, but we do have quite a lot of clients from Africa. We do have, specifically right now, we have a lot of members from Uganda in our member base. So we actually drive 3 businesses. We have the banking side, we have the exchange, which is World Equity Expo, and we have a liquidity engine called Liquid, which is a very interesting model that helps in promoting public stock. And especially in that area and in World Equity Expo, we have a lot of clients from Africa, but specifically in Uganda. And this comes because we did actually do business. We were involved in a business that was highly involved in that country, and that's why. So we have always wanted to move into Africa, always believed in providing the tools, and we were actually, like I said, involved in another project a couple of years ago when we were talking about banking the unbanked, because again, providing that infrastructure is key. Now, obviously, that's a very it's a huge task, and obviously it's not correct to refer to Africa as Africa, because it's bigger than several continents together. So. But overall, I think it's very interesting. And for us, it's absolutely a key factor, and very exciting too, because there's so much exciting entrepreneurship that we want to bring out to the rest of the world to see. So to us, that's very high up on the agenda. Yes.
Okay. Suppose we take a scenario that you go into one of the African countries, say Namibia, Botswana, South Africa. Will there be a need for you to work with the local banks, or are you able to finance fintech, your fintech business using the banks in Europe or where you are?
Well, I mean, we would not per se require any finance for our own technology or our own rollout. We can manage that on our own. So we're not dependent on either outside or local banks in that regard. But what we do want is obviously partnerships with local banks to provide our services and integrate with them, because obviously still, as I said, traditional banking is needed, and they have the infrastructure that we will not go into, because we will never become a retail bank. That's not part of our process in that respect. We will, however, provide retail functionality. So when we are looking at localized presence, we might be looking at what we call lounge banking, but not a traditional old school sort of store format of a bank. And in that, I think that partnering up with other banks, but even actually doing something creative like store-in-store solutions, you don't necessarily need, I mean, a bank used to be a secure office with a vault, you locked in the money and so on. I mean, you don't need that anymore. That's not there. You can actually create a store-in-store solution in partnership with a store chain of any kind of sorts. Where are people every day? They don't want to go to their bank. They might go to their grocery store. That's where they want to go. But every day to day, you don't want to go to your bank. So, again, this is about adapting to this time era.
Tell me more about how the store-to-store might work, for example.
Yeah, so I'll take an example. Western Union is one of the biggest bank operations in the world, yet they don't own one single store. They actually have a little flag sitting on the wall outside a coffee shop or somebody who's an agent. So that's what they do. And actually they were very early in doing this. Now, obviously they have one core business, and that is just money remittance. But you can apply the same kind of method where you provide a store owner with a terminal, and a certain protocol. And by doing that, they can become your outlet. That is to us store in store. You can provide almost like a turnkey shelf you just set into a shop, and you educate them on how to handle this. Because we believe that you need a physical interface, even for crypto. That is what's missing. I'll give you an example. I know that people say that from 2017, crypto went mainstream. That's not really true. I mean, I'll give you an example. A few months ago, I was trying to buy some Ethereum coins. And I was sitting, my programmer needed a few coins. I was trying to get it because we wanted to exchange. And I'm a programmer, or I used to be a programmer, so I'm pretty tech savvy. I was doing this for half an hour, and then I got fed up and I'm mad, and I slammed my computer and I threw my credit card to the developer and said, you go and get the damn Ether. And that is because it's just too damn hard still. I don't want a crypto wallet or a bank where I have, 12 keywords and all this. I want to go into my bank, show my passport or my ID and say, hi, I'm Anthony, can I please get access to my money? Just like a normal bank. That part of normal banking most people want and understand. So I think that this only becomes really real when you bridge that gap. That is when crypto really goes mainstream. Now, the interesting part about this is if it is this hard these days, imagine what happens when you actually overcome that and it becomes easy and accessible to people in everyday life.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, that is very interesting, and it will be something that will be great to incorporate in our countries. And I'm just thinking from a perspective whereby you can join with, for example, ISPs, internet service providers, to make it more liquid. Do you think that's a possibility, or how do you think of going that route?
Well, I think it used to be a possibility. ISPs used to play a big role in distribution of software and infrastructure. I think maybe not so much anymore, but I would rather say mobile carriers. They are a natural partner. Yeah. So I would say that the mobile carriers are more a natural partner. We are actually in discussions with a cell phone brand to incorporate our app as a standard feature in every phone that is being shipped out, for example. I think that is a more logical route, because the ISPs just these days provide infrastructure. Back in the day when internet was young, then they were a good partner because they would provide you with a starting page and all that. But these days they've left that. So that kind of bundling, I think, is very hard to do. But it is still different in different countries. And I think one must have an approach to look at how the local culture is in terms of distribution and traffic, online traffic.
Okay, wonderful. Can you just perhaps, I know you touched a little bit on fintech, just to tell our people what fintech is, and as well what tokens are and how these work hand in hand.
Absolutely, happy to do that. So the term fintech is actually a general term that illustrates what also is referred to as neo-banking in general, and that is financial products of various sorts that are not necessarily traditional banks. For instance, what Dragon is, we are not a bank, we don't have a bank license, but we have a license that allows us to perform bank-like functions. And it also allows us, not being a bank, allows us to be more agile in our movements and changes and development. So you can say that fintech is, in general, a term for non-banked financial products. And I recognize that this is a very vague term, but I'll give a couple of examples. One is, for instance, Revolut, which is a prepaid debit card where you have your money in an app. Another thing is our exchange, World Equity Expo, and so on. And that is where the tokens come into play, because the reason people look at tokens as a phenomenon or a monetary thing in itself, it's not really. It's just another way of carrying money. And it's just like the same thing with crypto, where people talk about cryptocurrency and fiat currency, which is the term for traditional money. Well, in my world, it's only money. This is the same as you look at people, you know, you have people talking about digital camera or a camera. That is, I guess, separates me from my kids. So, or my brother who still says color TV. So he's older. And it's the same with money. You know, it's exactly the same thing. You know, why are we separating? It's all money in some sorts. Now, going to tokens, then tokens is just a carrier of, it's just the technical protocol. So World Equity Expo, our exchange, was founded on a principle that, you know, back in the day, there's a reason why stock exchanges were located in cities. And this is because obviously when this started, which was as far as back in 1650 something in Amsterdam, in order to trade shares, you had to go to a venue. So you went down to this little hall, and you know the old pictures from the 60s, 70s, 80s, where people are standing in NASDAQ in the stock exchange, yelling with a small piece of paper their order, which is complete insanity, but it worked for some reason. And you know that was the reason, because you had to go to that venue to trade. That's why you have the New York Stock Exchange, the London Stock Exchange, and so on. But you know, these days here, you know, in Stockholm, where I live, the Stockholm Stock Exchange is just 5 containers of servers sitting in a harbor. There's nobody there. The Frankfurt Stock Exchange obviously still has an actual house and an actual building, but nobody is trading there. It's just a symbol. So what's happened here is that it's moved from the exchanges having the clients, the buyers, to the companies. If, let's say, a big brand, any kind of brand, let's say Coca-Cola, decides to list somewhere on an exchange, they bring the clients. And that means there's no need for a physical place. So the whole approach with World Equity Expo is that our clients bring the liquidity, and we are simply a more practical way to go. We're a more economical way to go. We're a faster way to go, and we're a safer way to go, and easier for everybody. Again, like I said, empowering the small business to come on board. So the tokens are actually only the currency or the technical means of handling funds and distribution. Now, in the case of, then you can build a business case based on a token, which is like in the case of Mumba, which is very exciting. And tokens are very useful tools, but the tokens themselves are not anything else than another means of distributing funds and handling it, but in a very, very practical way.
Okay, I see Dr. Ayla spoke to you about the Mumba tokens that we have.
Yes, she did. I think it's very exciting.
I don't know whether she has spoken to you about the WWLC Bank also as well, that is still in progress.
Absolutely. And I think I will let her add in on the agenda on that, but we're highly informed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a very good initiative that you have going. One other thing, I know Fintech requires there to have some internet infrastructure that is available. So is it possible for it to be created in locations, or, you know, Africa has a lot of rural areas, and some rural areas do not have internet access, although they have access to their mobile phones. Is there a possibility of them to use their mobile phones without internet for them to access global fund fintech financing?
You know, that's a very interesting question. At this point, no, but a mobile phone with an internet connection, I would say, is the requirement to do this. There are obviously methods to use the mobile phone on a traditional call with banking. You could do that.
Yeah.
My feeling, however, is that in any rural area, even if it might feel a little bit distant now, I think that will happen so fast, because the costs of rolling out mobile internet, and this comes back to the whole leapfrog principle, is so low So I think it's a matter of a very short amount of time, but I could be wrong. This is me being a little bit uneducated, but I think that is more likely to happen faster. So trying to create an interface that is only phone based, excuse me, only phone based without internet is going to have such a limited functionality. So I think it's hardly worthwhile. So that is a challenge, of course. But I think that as I said, the infrastructure is becoming cheaper and faster. And also, there's nothing that says that we can't be part of putting that infrastructure out there because it's becoming cheaper and better. So I think this is a way of bringing jobs and new business into rural areas.
Indeed, indeed. The reason I'm asking that, I think it will be a good one to add into the app, especially if you were to roll out into the African countries, because you'll be in a situation where you find like a farmer in the rural areas, they have got probably fresh produce, but now they have an issue of how they are going to sell their products because they are limited on internet, which is one thing, but they do have a mobile phone. I know in some countries they have rolled out mobile money where you don't need a smartphone and you can pay. For example, in Kenya they have M-Pesa, which is one of the good ways to go. So yeah, I think for Dragon also, if we're to look into that rolling into Africa, that would be a good thing to look at.
It's interesting that you mentioned M-Pesa because that was really driven initially by the need for producers to handle their payments. That was actually the first case we ran into because my country manager in Kenya, Michael, he was telling the story about his mother being actually a farmer, and she was having tons of product. That wasn't the problem, and she had tons of buyers, but there was just no infrastructure to pay, and that was the big limiting factor. So I do recognize that. Well, I think we have to take it a little bit and play it by ear, but I think that the best way of handling this is because, again, the costs of smartphones, while higher than the normal phone is also, I mean, the cost gap between the normal phone and a smartphone is really decreasing because the cost of components are just similar. So it's almost as expensive these days to build a smartphone as a normal phone, although they price them differently in the market. So I think as that gap closes down, people will have smartphones. Well, then you don't have an internet connection still, but that will eventually come again. So we will see. I don't have a straight answer for that or our planning in terms of that, but I think that's something we need to stay on top of course.
Okay. But in any case, I do agree with you about the gap becoming smaller. I work for an internet service provider, so it's one of the things that we're given. It's one of the laws that we're given by the government that we provide infrastructure in the rural areas. We roll out infrastructure in the rural areas for them to be able to use smartphone. And we're actually busy with a number of campaigns to roll out the small phones that do not have internet access so they can start using smartphone. And as much as actually in some of the rural areas, we are rolling out people using 2G and 3G so they can start using 4G at least in the lower areas. I hope it's happening all around the world as well, because we are fast moving into industrial 4.0. We are really going in there really fast. And with COVID, we have been taught, actually, it has been a very good lesson that everything should be online, including money, including money. It's more safer if you are doing an online transaction than having hard cash in your hand currently, because where that cash has been, it's probably been handled to somebody with COVID. And then you come and hold the money like that, the disease has been transmitted to you. Yeah. So this becomes more liquid.
You know, that's a very interesting point. I mean, COVID has obviously been horrible, but it has actually driven some good changes as well, because, you know, it's just like what we're doing right now, working on a distance. This technology has been around for 15 years and we've had Skype forever, and still people don't do it. I used to get on 6-hour flights to go and see a client because just they demanded me to be there. But quite frankly, why? To sit with somebody for 30 minutes and then go back? That's a horrible abuse to nature, but also it's a waste of time and resources. And so COVID is driving many of these things. And also I imagine it has driven a lot of infrastructural improvements. So, and like you say, if the government dictates that you need to provide internet in some places, which many governments do in different regions, they push this out because that is the cheapest, simplest way of boosting the country's economy. So, you know, I'm glad to hear that they do that in Namibia.
Yes, they're actually doing it. It is becoming mandatory for us to do that.
Very good.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add in the conversation that we've had so far?
No, not right now. I think we've covered most areas.
Okay. I just want to invite Dr. Ayla to come on board. Dr. Ayla, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. How are you, President Chase? How are you, Anthony? How is everybody?
Hey there. Good, thanks. Good. Happy to be here.
So Anthony is our Swedish partner. Actually, we are finishing up our merger and acquisition. He's an amazing partner. He's been very helpful, and he's very excited on the bank, WWLC Bank, which will candidately lead by a very bright woman from the World Bank, and she's here tonight. I told her, join the talk show. So actually we need 5 banking license, right? So we have Indonesia, we have in Europe, we have another guy joining that already have in Africa, I think, few banking license. He's also the founder of one of the largest bank. And we have Pacific side. You know, I'm very excited because then when we are done with our infrastructure, a rural farmers, like what you said, President Chase, they can actually go on trade alive. They don't have to be listed in New York Stock Exchange. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to connect them, the stock exchange, with all the top 5 big stock exchange. So they are actually connected to top 5 stock exchange, which is London, Switzerland, Frankfurt, New York, and Hong Kong. Yes. So there is no more this stupid, how I say, brokers that getting a lot of money from a little farmers. I really hate it, right? There is no more insufficient of a financial, right? So like Anthony said, you could be $50 billion to $500 company. Come, we could list your stock. We could help you as long as you have a commodity or values to sell. Yes. So this is exactly the bank should be, right? This is exactly how financial world should be, and COVID make it happen. That's why I love COVID, you know. Without COVID, I will not meet Anthony, calling him up 2 a.m., stressing about the bond I'm going to issue for my government, stressing about how do I'm going to go public in Frankfurt Stock Exchange from Jakarta, you know, creating prospectus bond on the hospital when my mother in the ICU with him. So today, COVID make it possible. So we should be very grateful that we are alive and we're about to create big change, right? Indeed. Not small, big one, big one. If we're done, that will be a lot of people we could help, you know, like you could tell your cousin or even anybody that sell mango, right? They can have hope right? As long as it's a real mango, not a fake mango. So yeah, Anthony, I'm very excited. And we have Mumba token already actually launched in DAX. What we're trying to do is we're trying to connect it with our banking license, with the stock exchange, with real commodities, which also Brian is trying to look for me, which is gold, and with oil, all real commodity that is being traded. So we are not faking anybody. It's real commodity. Stock there and become our backside of the financial backup. So this is what we are doing. We hope we're succeeded. Yes. Yes, Anthony. And Anthony been driving all around, calling people, everybody. Oh, I need this, I need that, but he's been very helpful and he's very excited. And I'm looking forward to launch this bank together. Yes, ladies, so we can help Norma, for example, to sell her clothes. We can help anybody. We could help even rural people that have no banking facility. They, it's so simple. So this is my dream, and we hope we make it together. I need everybody hands to put it together. We have top-notch personal branding here that teach many famous people, so we can teach the woman to also have all of that, and I think we will make it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Brian, would you like to add something?
There we go. So one, I'm very excited about this because of the way technology has allowed us to move ideas and assets and turn them into business enterprise. And that can reach and will reach all over the world. One of the things I did here in the United States when I was working as the deputy in New York State is be able to design a program where all the young people with entrepreneurship ideas were connected. And what we did in 2 weeks, we connected them all over the country so they could reach literally hundreds of thousands of young people all at the same time, very quickly at no notice. And that was developed into what became the AmeriCorps. And we got funding from the government. They thought it was a brilliant idea. And these young people, for each community, because each community was different, there were some, the biggest demands was the homeless. For some, the biggest demands was with the farming. Others, the biggest demands was opportunities for women. And each community had their own design. And so what these groups did is they were able to get funding, and they would lobby the government and lobby throughout the world for funds for their community. What's exciting about that model, which all of you understand and all of you have been a part of, is that the same kind of model can use to reach the world. And so there are many people in AmeriCorps in the United States that have a great deal of interest in growing, helping businesses grow across the world, across Africa as well. In fact, one of my cousins has built out a program, a model called the Last Mile. And that has to do with an economic model for communities that are out there on the last mile that have very limited resources. And so they've designed a model that says, if we can get this amount of money, that would allow these communities to be able to thrive. And so that model is currently been built. I will send information about it. And we're very excited about that one because that allows an infrastructure design for the last mile communities in rural areas across the world, throughout all of Africa, but throughout the world. And it would also connect them to all these different groups like AmeriCorps throughout the world that say, we want to help and we've got people and resources to come there. And that was part of the model that goes back to my great-grandfather, and they were coming out of slavery, is how they could come together and build an organization with very, very limited funds, but ideas and a design to be able to do much in a short period of time with a group of committed people, which is certainly what everyone on here is all about. So I'm very excited about it. I understand it. I will be helpful in every way that I can. I'm delighted to be part of this esteemed group of visionaries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. I can see how what you've just spoken about goes hand in hand with the listing. Imagine all those people getting listed, easy access to finances. That will just be amazing. It will cause a lot of business to blow up. It will cause a lot of business people to get money from business and also to trade. And that is going to be good for a lot of economies for different countries. It's a really great idea. Thank you so much, Brian.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Do we have any questions, any comments from the audience?
Well, hey, just a quick one, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Hey, Brian, thanks for that. I just wanted to add in on something that I came to think about when you were talking. Traditionally, these types of activities and platforms become regulatory complicated, especially if you look at, like, for instance, the US regulation versus, equity-wise, and Europe and other continents too. Now, that is the beauty here when we're doing what we're doing, and tying into what you just talked about here, is that you can actually sort of move about regulation in some ways, not break regulation, but actually just step out of it, which again means that programs like you just described become much more powerful and simpler to launch as well. They just have a wider scope as well. So I think I agree that it goes well hand in hand, all of this.
Indeed. Thank you, Anthony. I see President Olive. Would you like to chip in something in there? Would you like to say something? Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon from Cape Town. It's quite an interesting topic, and I'm sure with the few colleagues that is on board from South Africa, we will definitely come on board. So give us some time, but I'll fully, me personally, endorse the opportunity for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Olive. I see your experience in wind that side. We're also experiencing wind today, actually. Okay, thank you so much. Do we have any further questions or any additions? You can raise your hand or unmute yourself. Okay, so President Anna, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, well, good morning from New York City. It's really fascinating for me to learn more about what's happening in the world with the possibilities. So my question to Anthony is, first of all, thank you so much for your insights, because the world is changing so rapidly. So if we take like 5 years from now, in your view, how the world, like financial transaction, like everything, what the difference will be? So which direction we are moving as with the possibilities of trade globally, if it makes sense? I'm just very curious about what you think about it.
Thanks, Anna. Well, to start with, I think a lot of people holding stock in traditional banks are going to be a little bit poorer than today. But yeah, other than that, I think well, it's very hard to say, obviously, because it's such a rapid moving environment. But what I think we will see is a more solid harmonization of the new fintech and the new arena with traditional finance. And also regulators will catch up. They will adapt to what we have. And especially governments will embrace these opportunities instead of working against them, as they, well, in some countries, they are actually working with us, but you know, you still have a lot of resistance. So I think that overall 5 years from now, this will be fairly harmonized. You will, as in any fast growing industry, see a consolidation game where the players consolidate. And, you know, I talk to my team, sometimes they're saying, oh, look at these banks, they're fat and happy and just lazy. I say, well, you know what? That might happen to us as well, because, eventually we grow big and something else happens. That's just the nature of business. But right now we are the change, and let's make it count. So I think 5 years from now, this is a more traditional place. I think the traditional trading gaps and arbitrage in the industry, which means it's so profitable to trade in the cryptocurrency sphere, that is probably going to be far, far less. So the profits in the industry are going to go down, and it's going to scale up. That is what I think is going to happen. But I think overall the big change is that the acceptance driven for these kind of products, that this becomes the norm, is the most important thing. And hopefully we've created a new way, or at least supported not to take on that too big hat, supported a big change in terms of bringing out entrepreneurs and new businesses, which is always fun. So long and short is, just the way people have talked about globalization in the last 15, 20 years. I mean, when I grew up, travel was expensive. Now people are traveling everywhere, and the world becomes smaller. And that is obviously always a positive thing. As people get to know each other, cross borders, cross cultures, that's always a positive thing. Brings understanding. And this might be exactly the globalization of the financial world. I'm hoping.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. Excellent, brilliant.
Thank you, President Anna. Thank you, Anthony. President Marcel, the floor is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. We're all in different places of the world, which is just fascinating. And I love it just to be in these conferences planned by this amazing group of women led by Ayla, listening to all of you and understanding what we're going through right now. We've been basically now in a point where we're combining all history in terms of the banking and financial sector to go to the high-tech level, where we have now instruments that we didn't use before because of technology, the advances in technology, and like you said, because of COVID, coming from the World Bank and working in projects such as Mohammed Yunus projects, which is the Grameen Bank, which is very local based, great example. In Bangladesh, women being able to successfully get access to financing to develop their own projects, not only in the rural areas, but then on the, I would say, middle developed urban areas. It just proved that it is a successful model. And now with technology and with all the financial instruments, like what Tony mentioned in terms of fintech, and listening to Brian and the Last Mile project, it is great to be in the 21st century and being able to combine the most, I would say, basic principles of banking, from the first banks that we're creating in human history to now what we're going to do on a global basis, and it's happening. So I think it's fascinating. It's great that Ayla and all of us has that possibility to get advice from gentlemen like Tony and like Brian, that are also experts and have worked globally in this industry. So I'm sure that now with the bank that it's going to be created, which is going to have a fintech component, traditional banking component, the capacity to be able to get global through technology, I think the impact is going to be amazing. Because of women that are here, what they've been able to achieve, even without banks and even without fintech. So now imagine doing it with all these tools. So I think it's fascinating. I'm very excited about this project, and I really want to congratulate all of you for what you have achieved, and I look forward to working with you to make this happen. I'm sure it's gonna be extremely successful, and the most important thing, it's gonna be a game changer for all women in the rural areas, in the mid-urban areas, in the megalopolis. So this is gonna be a game changer. And Ayla has an amazing vision and extremely hardworking. She's like a rocket. So I think we have the perfect partner for this to happen. And I want to thank you all for all your insights and the information. I think it's gonna be a great exercise and a great project for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, President.
And I'm
Marcela.
sorry, my hair and my face looks crazy, but here in Colombia, it's really early in the morning.
You look beautiful.
You are very beautiful, President Marcela. So relax.
Thank you.
And you actually just woke up like that, so you're really beautiful.
Okay, let's change the subject, please.
Okay, wonderful. Do you have any further questions from anybody? Okay. I see that we don't have any questions. So I just really want to thank Anthony for awarding us your time. Want to thank Brian also and everybody who's on this platform today. Thank you for making the time to join in. Thank you for making the time to share the knowledge and the information that you have shared today. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate it as we move into one. I see President Lebohang wants to say something. President Lebohang.
Hi. The idea of having physical structures was mostly because stocks, as opposed to regular banks, don't have insurance. So if I lost money with a certain bank, I know I can go there physically and ask them what's up. And even the stock exchange also, I can go to Wall Street in New York and check out whoever represents specific companies. But now if everything is done online, one, there's no insurance. Now you can't even access these people. I mean, cyber things have their own security problems. How do we then deal with that issue?
That is a very good point. Excellent point. You are right. I mean, at least you could go to the bank back in the day and talk to somebody. The stock exchange, not so much, but at least there was a live person to talk to. I've always said, because our corporate finance activity has been driven by events. So when you deal with real money, you want to look somebody in the eye, ideally face to face. That is obviously a change. Now, it is in general a problem in terms of accountability and security in this world right now. You have, you have the problem with the banks. People typically bring this up in a conversation about what Bitcoin is, for instance. What is it backed up by? Well, and they like to compare it to the US dollar being backed up by gold, but it hasn't been backed up by gold since 1909, if I'm not mistaken. So the fact is that any currency or any asset or any stock, because a stock is only a currency, that's all it is, which means it's only a token, its value is the amalgamation of all the use it's had, whether you bought houses with it, trips, airplane tickets, whatever. Whatever is remaining is what is behind the currency. That's it. So there is really not a financial framework to lean on in that respect. And it's the same with bank banks. In Europe, for instance, and you have similar frameworks in most parts of the world, in Europe, you always, as a consumer, have a protection up to 100,000 euros. So if the bank goes belly up, the government will cover whatever you had on your account up to 100,000 euros. Whatever over that, then you've lost it. So, so that's how it works, and that's all of the protection that is there. Now, how do you actually implement this in this world? That's something we have been debating. We have been debating whether we can provide that kind of guarantee and security behind deposits on a private level. And you could also discuss whether you could do that for cryptocurrency. We don't have an absolute solution for that. And the reason is that it just simply isn't economical enough to deploy that kind of cash and lock in those kind of funds for a private player to back something up. So at this point, people are actually carrying their own risk. One thing we have been looking at is a staking model where we actually use funds on deposit from a third party to stake trading. And by doing that, it actually becomes profitable and economical to also underwrite the funds on the accounts. But at this stage, there is nothing there. But you are absolutely right that this is an issue, and this is something that gradually has to be addressed. And obviously, like any financial institution, it is as strong as the company is. I know for instance, in 2008, when you had a lot of old institutions go belly up, people weren't expecting that. They felt very safe thinking that these were, so they felt very safe in their hands. But the only thing I can say is it's very, very hard to tell. You don't, and it's nearly impossible. Even me being in the industry, I couldn't say what's a safe haven or not. That's very hard. The only lesson to learn from that is not to put all your eggs in one basket and do your homework. Now, the beauty here is that as regulatory frameworks come and various public safeguards become weaker or at least harder to follow up on, at the same time, the world is becoming more transparent, which means that you can do your homework to a greater extent, and you have to do your homework to a greater extent when doing an investment and trading in a stock. So there's more transparency, but with that, there's more homework to do and more material. That is, I recognize, a bit of a vague answer, but that is the environment we're in right now, in my opinion.
Yes, yeah.
Wonderful. Now, I'm just thinking that right now it's even too dangerous for insurance company to get into that, where they try to secure or where you can insure your cryptocurrency or your, something in that line. It's probably costly, but maybe in the future, if people come up with rules and regulations on how a person can go about insuring their Bitcoin, their Ethereum, their tokens, maybe that will be a new business ideology, and perhaps that will make a lot of people a bit more secure. So
I agree.
that's just my two cents on that.
That will happen eventually. It's just a matter of time.
Yes. Okay.
Well, I'm glad that we are aware of it, because then we can start putting measures in place, because people have been banned too many times. I mean, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you,
we actually plan to back up the Mumba token with gold, and the gold is insured. That is the idea. However, it's not very easy to look for gold. You know,
I have a gold mine.
I wake up every day from 5 a.m. to 3 a.m. looking for gold. Real gold is not very easy.
Ayla, I have a real gold mine.
Then bring it to central bank, because I don't want to talk to like I know like Brian already very stressed because I'm begging him every day, telling him like, where is the gold? Where is the RWA?
I have the gold on
Because
the
I tell you
16th of
what, people
December.
say I have the gold. They don't actually have it, right?
I have a mind. So if I say I have gold, I mean it.
Yes.
No, I understand, but you at the moment, right? A lot of people say I have the gold. They don't really have the gold. Or I tell them, all right, you have the gold. Bring me the RWA. RWA means ready, willing, and able to sell. Right? There is no way they say no. I don't have the gold. I say, why you send me all this letter? But
I will give you RWA on the 16th of December.
all right,
So
very
on
good.
the
Give me
17th we can
RWA.
talk.
Bring
Yeah,
it to the table,
RWA.
RWA. So Anthony, Marcella can work out the numbers.
Yeah.
Bring me the RWA. I have also this very my good friend, amazing man. Yes, he's an investment banker, the oldest investment banker I met in the whole planet Earth. He's very experienced. I want to welcome Bruce. Bruce, say hello, Bruce. So he's been helping me trying to structure every single thing. Bruce, say hello, Bruce.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure
Hi,
to meet you.
Bruce.
Very nice to meet you.
So Bruce is in the stock exchange before we all born, right? Yes, Bruce.
200 years. 200 years ago.
2,000 years. Yeah, so I want an expert, top expert. So I look for Bruce. He's a top expert. And on top of it, President Chase. Bruce is actually he have a company of the what you want to say just now, infrastructure. He's actually building a data center.
Oh, wow.
And yes, we're planning to build the infrastructure inside of the highway. That's why I don't know where is President Rebecca. So highway below it, there is an infrastructure of data center. So with the group of another group that have a satellite. So, there is no internet. This is the future. We use satellite. Right? We trade with satellite. Nobody can block it. We trade with satellite. That's the idea. And I want the top notch, the oldest investment banker to be next to me advising me. And there is Bruce who bring Marcella who trying to help me also, So we are in a good hand. We hope we can launch the bank maybe next month or maybe January. I don't know. But we are moving forward.
Okay. Bruce, I just want to ask you one question.
Yes.
Since you're in the business of building data centers, what is the biggest data center and what space does it cover? What you have created it this far?
Well, we have a team of, I don't know, 24 people that have experience in building commercial and military data centers all over the country and all over the world. I wear a couple of hats. As the world's oldest investment banker, I own my own very small broker dealer called Hudson Capital Advisors. And then I also wear a hat as the chief investment officer of a company called TerraScale, which is working on a bunch of projects. I might actually visit. We're talking about building a data center in Zurich, Switzerland. But Ayla's vision of integrating fiber optic, which would be embedded in the road, with data centers, with satellite uplinks, is really the way to go. And it's the way people are going to go. You're going to see not only communications from satellites, you'll see data analysis, data processing, and data storage all taking place in space.
Bruce, are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, now we can hear you.
He's sleeping. This is bedtime.
I'm writing pages of notes here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just
And when we talk about satellite, did we consider the meteors that sometimes knock out these satellites?
Sorry, President. No. You know, I told you we're going to moon. We picnic every Saturday, Sunday. We have this conference from the moon. Yes. Maybe 3 years from now we will have it, but it depends on Bruce as
When
well.
we come lunatic.
Yeah, lunatic. but I am serious about it. So when the bank is finished, satellite finished, Anthony can trade also in the moon. We trade in the moon. No, it's serious.
One other comment.
We're
You
not the
mentioned how
problem. It's a good thing that both you and me are like a
sorry, Anthony, you were breaking.
No,
this
sorry,
is
I
Bruce.
just stopped talking because Bruce was coming in. Sorry, Bruce, go ahead.
I don't think I answered fully, if I even can, a question about how large. And data centers are usually specified in terms of the energy that they consume, which is really a proxy for their functionality, but that's sort of the convention. And, you know, we can build a data center as, you know, as small as 5 megawatts of power to, you know, 100 megawatts of power. The very largest data centers in the world are a few hundred, you know, megawatts of power, and it can be as little as literally a cargo container. We can slap 2 prefab cargo containers, which are data centers in a box, and they'd be 2.5 megawatts. So it's whatever the need and the application.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Thank you.
Is there anything you want to add on that, or should I give the floor to Anthony?
Well,
I think Anthony.
sorry, I was muted. No, I think that's very interesting, Bruce. I mean, it's not my core business, but we are involved in I'm also wearing a few hats, and I'm actually building a data center here in Sweden, primarily for cryptocurrency mining. But it's a bit of a real estate race here because we have the cheapest non-subsidized power in the world. So because of that, there's a lot of data centers being built here. Plus, it's cold as hell here. So obviously, you save money on cooling the servers. So Amazon just built a huge server farm an hour from Stockholm. And we do have access to quite a lot. The one we're building right now is going to be 20 megawatts. But we do have a 160 megawatt supply there. So, you know, in case you want to have some leads on that up here as well, just let me know.
Well, outside of Ayla and the group's needs, but Sweden is, once they're satisfied, which will never be the case, but Sweden is an ideal location. And as you know, it's all about the cost of power and the cost of cooling, and you check both of those boxes brilliantly. Yeah.
No, it's really it's really good in that sense. Plus, the funny thing is, because these industrial locations tend to be in rural areas that lost their business, like forestry, like, you know, iron smelting plants, stuff like that. You have a lot of labor as well, and the government is happy to give tax breaks too. So, you know, it ticks most boxes.
Sounds like I need to go to Sweden.
You sure do. Weather is horrible.
Bruce, where are you located, bro?
Santa Monica, California.
Oh my heavens. I spent many years there when I was playing for the Raiders.
Fantastic. You know, for me, they will always be the Oakland Raiders. They may have moved to Las Vegas, but they are the Oakland Raiders.
No, I understand. Me as well. Me as well. I was there when Bo Jackson came through, and prior to that with New England Patriots for 9 seasons.
Oh, that's fantastic, sir.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. I spent some time there, and I got very upset when I looked at the finances, and I became the vice president to develop equity for all the ball players and also medical care and treatment. And then also because so many of them were so involved in athletic sports in college and weren't allowed to go through college, that once I got the NFL to pledge that they will commit to funding their college degree completion, whether they're currently playing the NFL or afterwards. And then there was another item that was missing that I caught, and I says, this is not just for the ball players, but you must guarantee that the wives would be able to go back and complete their education if that was necessary. And that was very successful. And then I built out some of the digital platform and quadrupled their business. And they were quite happy with that.
Well, that's quite impressive, sir. Where may I ask, are you located these days?
So I spent most of my life in Orange County, and then up in Massachusetts with New England, and then 30 years in New York, and then I'm down here in Tampa.
Fantastic. You ever go to Burns Steakhouse?
I do not bring my 10 children to Burns Steakhouse.
I understand.
I made the mistake once. It was thousands of dollars.
Oh my God. All right. Well, this fraction of your personal story is incredibly impressive. The work that you've done was so needed. That's excellent. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. It's much like you as well. I mean, we come from a long line of people, leaders, and relatives who, as I say many, many times, their dream was that we would arrive with more ideas, more resources, more capacity to make larger and significant contributions to the world. So it's all about them and all about him.
Yes, sir.
Amen on that one.
I have something to add, if it's possible, Jace. Now that I'm listening to Tony and to Bruce talk about data centers and how they're building data centers around the world, I want both of them to know that there's a lot of capital to finance energy in those data centers, because since there's a heavy energy consumption, we are putting together with Siemens Energy a program to feed energy into those data centers around the world. So we should talk, because
absolutely,
there's, like I said, there's plenty of capital available for this specific component.
No, yeah, and that's very interesting, Marcella, because as you say, I mean, power is really the key. The location is not important. The temperature is not really that important either. It's the power. The power is the key.
Exactly.
Other than that, you can just have a paved parking lot and put up containers. The building is
exactly.
So you need some fiber and you need some water, but it's really about the power.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. All right, great. Sounds like we have another synergy here in this group.
Marcella, which body will that power be provided again?
Siemens Energy. It's putting together a program with us in Green Center Capital to make sure that we can bring renewable energy to those data centers that are now built around the world, precisely because of cryptocurrencies and all what we mentioned before in the conference call. So now that Bruce and Anthony were mentioning that they're in that business, I wanted to let them know that there's a program with lots of capital for that specific component.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Marcella.
You're welcome.
Okay. let me not hold so many people here on the conference. I think we are done with our 1 hour. I would like to take this opportunity to invite Dr. Ayla. She has any closing remarks to add before we officially close? President Judith, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. How are you all?
We are very fine. Thank you so much.
I can see I've just joined late. I've just finished church.
Oh, you probably have to go to the recording to listen, because it was a very wonderful topic that we had, and we have so many big minds, so many big ideas that we listened to. Yes.
I'll definitely take the recording. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Ayla, any closing remarks?
I'm just very happy that I can put up all the top-notch people in the industry to create infrastructure and to create a real change in a very short time. And we hope we can drive that change together. That's all. Love and light from my humble home, Bogor, Indonesia. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ayla, for bringing all this together and all the big minds together. Before we play our song, I would like to ask President Judith, since you're coming from church, can you just close with a prayer for us?
Yes, sure. Shall we pray? We thank you, Jehovah God, for yet another day. You are faithful. Yesterday, we had a lovely meeting, and we asked that, Lord, may you make it possible for us to meet again. And indeed, today, your children have been meeting, and they have been discussing various things which are very important to humankind. We know, Jehovah Jireh, that you are a God that cares for your children. We thank you for each and every life that has participated in the World Women Leading Change programs. For today, Master, we just want to give you glory for a special day. And now, Master, we pray that you bless each and every one of the speakers, bless each and every woman on this platform, bless their families, Lord, that they may continue to serve you through World Women Leading Change. We ask for special blessings upon our president, our founding president, President Ayla, that, Father, may you cover her with the perfect protection. Continue to give her wisdom. Father, even for the big brains that have been on this platform now for today, Lord, may you continue to increase their innovative minds. We pray for our families, our countries, Lord. We pray that even again tomorrow, give us yet another time so that we can testify of your goodness. It is in the mighty name of Jesus Christ that I pray with thanksgiving in our hearts, as we all agree and say amen.
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 Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
I also want to congratulate Her Royal Highness Princess Debbie in absentia for obtaining her PhD. We are very proud of her. As Dr. Ayla said, big minds. She collects big minds, and we can see that. May we all excel in whatever we're doing. Yes, indeed.
Love and light, everyone.
Love and light. Okay, we can play our song, and we've officially come to the end of our program. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
We
Sunday.
are
Thank
the
you.
woman
Thank you
leading
very much.
change, leading change. We
Bye-bye.
are the woman leading change, leading change. We are the woman leading change, leading change.
Olive,
We
I
are
love
the
your hat.
woman
It's
leading
so
change
beautiful.
for our people, for our countries, for
You have your
everyone
mic off.
in the world. Love, peace, needed in this world. Endurance, needed in this world. Forgiveness, needed in this world. Unity, needed in this world.
We can hear her.
Yes, African woman,
Chase, where are you
leading
based?
change. Antarctican woman, leading change.
President Olive, your
Yes,
mic is off.
Asia, woman leading change. Yes, Australia, woman leading change. Yes, Europe, woman leading change. Yes, North America. Yes, South America, woman leading change. Kalirato fella, woman leading change. Kalitabo fella, woman leading change. Gotando pella, woman leading change. Yes, Indonesia. Yes, Ayla. Yes, Ayla. Woman leading change. Yes, Indonesia. We thank you, world woman leading change.
Bravo! How beautiful!
Well done.
Thank you.
Brava.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful morning, a wonderful
Thank
evening.
you.
Wonderful afternoon.